In this segment of our module on everyday ethics and design, Dr. Oakes will continue to discuss the difference between morality and ethics and outline some of the codes of professional ethics.
And I want to say what I'm going to do in these slides is I understand that everybody in the room and everybody on video are not engineers. I'm going to use some examples, but I also know that the majority of our students are. So there are times I'm going to talk about ethics. It's really ethics and ethical decision making is not a thing that is in just certain disciplines and how we process these. But I use those over as an example. If we're an ethical designer, what does that mean? You have your own ethical decision-making process, and it is a function, because a couple times we're going to talk, we have our own sets of values, morals. They're influenced by how we grew up, who we associated with. And part of that is being very comfortable with and starting to develop tools for you to make decisions that are right for you and the profession that you're going into. And so we'll talk. Now, one of the things when we talk about ethics and morals is morality are standards of conduct that we would think that everyone in society, everybody around would have. So when they talk about morals, this is something that that we think that everybody would have, or every rational person wants every other person to follow. Do people have different sense of morality? In a democracy, that makes for a vibrant discussion, right? Now, one of the things to think in society, in a democracy, who gets to decide what the rules are? The majority of people, right? And so one of the challenges is for us to say, okay, here's what the majority decides, but how do we give voice and protection to people who are not in the majority? Now, my statement actually is a reflection of my own values, my own morality, right? Because we do have people, it's like, wow, if we got 50% plus one, we can tell the other side exactly what to do. But in ethics, we refer to those special morally permissible standards or conducts that ideally every member of our profession wants from every other member to follow, even if that means having to do the same. So ethical codes are what is it that we want our group, our profession. One of the characteristics of a profession, when you look for definitions, is a profession has an ethical code. I would say most of you are going into a profession that has an ethical code. And there's several different. The standards of conduct include formal and informal codes of conduct. They're also acceptable practices. One of the things that you can do as an engineer is there's something that's called the order of the engineer. And there's actually an oath. It's advertised generally to seniors. It tends to be heavily on the civil engineers, just because that's the group that works. But the ring that I wear on my little finger, and it's always on the little finger of your working hand, is something that after you take that oath as an engineer, it's called the Order of the Engineer. One of the reasons they started it, so it's something we stole from the Canadians, but the Canadians started it, or we adapted from it. And it was the result of an ethical issue in Quebec. They had a massive bridge failure that killed many people. And it was the result, actually, of materials that weren't to spec. So you had people that signed off on a bridge that when you really looked at it had a reasonable probability of killing people. And the Canadian rings are actually made of, they pass along to all the I was going to say states, but in Canada it'd be provinces, is samples of that bridge, the remnants of it, and they actually use parts of the steel. In the US, we're just common steel, unless you get your ring from the state of Minnesota. Do you remember a few years back in Minneapolis they had a bridge failure? They actually got some of that scrap metal and they forged the rings over for that. But part of it is to remember things that have gone wrong in the past and where ethical codes were violated for that. So there's things that we agree on how to work. So professional ethics, they're a body of philosophy that guides a person in their professional capacity. You ever watch, if you watch TV, the profession that seems to be having their ethics discussed the most are the lawyers and the crime drama stuff, as they say, oh, ethically we can't do this. In different professions that they have. Aspects of the codes, and they're different groups. So our EPICS team can have a code of conduct that you could set up rules over for the team. Professional societies have them. Most companies will have them. And it's interesting because different companies will have different things depending on their work environment. A lot of the companies will have ethical decision making if they're like government contractors to make sure that you don't do anything to mess up our contracts. Other companies will have things as far as their ethical codes will include things like environment, sustainability, value to people for different things. But a company can have their own code. And you can have this on your own team. And I said if you go, most professions have, well, I guess technically all professions, because to be a profession, you've got some kind of body and you've got a code of ethics. So it's in psychology, education, audiology, in engineering. We'll have those. Now, if I look at, so one of the challenges in engineering is the different engineering branches will have different codes of ethics. NSPE is the National Society of Professional Engineers. They've got a code of ethics, and this one is cited often because to be a professional engineer, you can be in any discipline. Now, the reality is if you look at it in civil engineering and in construction, they have more situations where you need to be licensed as a professional engineer. So more of the civil engineers end up in the professional engineers, but you can do it. But this comes out from the fundamental canons. Hold paramount to safety, health, and welfare of the public. That's good, right? Right? Perform services only in areas of your competence. Now, what does that mean if you get into an EPICS project? It's like, oh, I don't know how to do this. Do you go to your advisor? It's like, oh, we just went to Professor Oaks' lecture, and based on I ethically cannot work on our project the rest of the semester. The advisor would say, ethically, I will not be able to give you a good grade. But what that means is I'm not going to do things outside of my area of expertise without help from somebody in the expertise. I mentioned the design reviews. That's one of the things. By the way, each EPICS team is supposed to invite at least 2 people to their design review yourselves. So actually looking at it to say, wow, we're doing a water catchment system or we're doing an education thing. Maybe we should have somebody who's an expert in that area come in. Ethically, that would be a good idea, right? Issue public statements only if in an objective and truthful manner. Act for each employer or client as a faithful agent or trustee. Avoid deceptive acts. Conduct themselves honorably, responsibly, ethically. lawfully, so to enhance the honor, reputation, usefulness of the profession. That seems easy, right? Okay, no, that still works. So if I look at it, hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of society, can I make something 100% safe? But if it's not 100% safe, aren't I violating the first fundamental canon? I'm making it safe, but not completely safe. Now, I'll tell you the biggest ethical dilemma that I got in as an engineer was I showed up one day, all the managers were gone, which generally would be a good thing. And I said that on tape, sorry. They're all probably retired now, I've been gone so long. But they were in this meeting because what had happened is one of our suppliers, and I worked in aviation, one of our suppliers had forged testing data. They actually hadn't done tests, so we didn't know the stuff was bad. We didn't know if it was. And it was fasteners. So what our people, so there's part of it, the FBI, I got here, there were people that shipped material that they did not know if it was safe into people that built airplanes. And I think about it, there's the criminals that made the decision, but there are other people. So you could end up in a job to say, hey, Wayne, we need you to do this. The ethical dilemma with us was we didn't know if they were safe. We knew these bolts were in all of our engines because what you would do is we had like 3 or 4 bolt manufacturers and we got about an equal number from each. Just in case one of them got shut down by the FBI, we kept running like happened. But they were mixed in. So we knew the engines that we were getting ready to ship had some of those in there. We didn't know how many. And the managers had to say, to what level do we go through to take those out? And the thing is, a jet engine is so complex, it takes weeks or months to assemble the thing. So if we had torn everything down, we had like $4 billion, billion with a B, dollars worth of inventory. We would have bankrupted the company if we'd stopped everything for months to just get rid of them. So do I bankrupt the company to ensure we don't have anything that might have an issue? Or do we proceed not knowing? And the other issue is if we find out the stuff was actually bad, what do we do? Now, there were times in my career I'm like, oh, I'd love to be a vice president. That was one day I'm like, I'm glad I'm a peon. And didn't have to make that decision. Now, the decision they make, which was interesting, was they said, go through first, get rid of every bolt from that, and they all went off to the materials people. We're going to test the heck out of them ourselves. Go back and identify where we know. If you can get down to a bolt and see, where do we think they are? And record that. And they said, any bolt you can get to with 1 day's worth of tear down, get them out. If it takes more than 1 day to get to it, record it and we'll keep them moving. To my knowledge, there was nothing that we were involved with that ever had a failure. A year later, it was actually a generator set, popped a bolt head. And we all panicked because we're like, take a picture of the bolt head, because on the bolt head is stamped the manufacturer. Turned out it was somebody else's. And it was a mechanics issue. They over-tightened it. It was something else. But we panicked because if any of those were bad, that was another conversation. But I looked there and I was like, okay, here's something real. And the result of the decision people's lives could depend on.